Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 321 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. We're going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. It's going to be great. We're going to be reviewing patches, maybe even writing some code. It's going to be a good time. Thanks for being here. Let me start by sharing my screen. One moment here. There we go. All right. Agenda, episode 321 of The Joy of Coding. Full screen. So no plan survives breakfast. Things might go wrong. I might have a little bit of trouble pulling up the agenda. I might have a little bit of trouble full screening things, and that's okay. We're capturing software development in the raw here, so things might go sideways. That's all right. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at is available to you. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the details section over on that section, over in there. If you're watching this on YouTube or diode.zone, check out the video description down below. And if you're watching this on Twitch, there's down in the channel details links to the agenda, so you can click on things. Now, one thing you'll notice is I haven't put anything in the agenda today. That's because I didn't add anything, but I know what I kind of want to work on today. I have some things that I'd like to review. Let's start there, especially because I think the person whose patch I want to review is actually maybe watching this. Will Durand has a patch that has been in my review queue for a few days, and let me just pull that up here. Here we go. So, handle the case where an extension widget is not visible and not in the extensions panel. Now, I had originally reviewed this. I had accepted a version of this patch back in February, but then this has gone through like a lot of changes, like sufficiently. The agenda is chatting. Is the agenda chatting? Oh, the agenda is just us talking. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Well, hang on. Let me start by putting putting the bug link into the agenda. Yeah, I can just like copy Markdown, and then I can put that in here. So, come on, copy Markdown, and put that in here, and then the Fabricator link I'll also put in here so you can follow along. Here, let me save. And that should update the agenda. Hopefully, if the agenda is working, and it should be, yeah, that should be in here now, although I can probably do a little bit of a better job of making this into a link. So let's turn this into a link. Does that work? No? Do I actually? Seriously? Okay. There we go. Okay, so Will's patch has been in my queue for a little while, but it just recently kind of got revived. There was this delay between when I last... I think Will's been working on other stuff, honestly, and maybe he can comment into here if he I mean, I don't think this is like a high priority piece of work, but it's kind of like come back up, been resurfaced as a thing to work on. And so now I'm going to re-review the patch, especially because like it was a while since I looked at it last. Like I said, the last time I looked at this was like February, so it's been like a couple of months. And it's been like rebased and tweaked, and there's like a test file that's been changed and all sorts of things. So I think it needs another look. So that's what I'm going to do today. Now, the first thing we need to do before we review a patch is make sure that we understand the problem that the patch is trying to solve so that we can recognize whether or not the patch is solving it. So this bug is bug 1801266. Handle the case where an extension widget is not visible and not in the unified extensions panel. So I can explain that one. I'll start by pulling up a build. But there are situations where extension widgets are not visible and are not in the extensions panel either. And this can happen when we place a widget in the bookmarks toolbar and then we hide this toolbar. Right, so here's the thing. You may or may not know that there is an extension widget button, or sorry, an extension, what we call the unified add-ons button here. When you install add-ons, this is where they show up inside of a panel. Let me install an extension real quick. Let's install uBlock, 'cause that's a classic. uBlock Origin. Add to Firefox. Do it. Okay. So this is the extensions panel. This is where you can manage your extensions. Also, people might not know this. Did you know you can move this around now? You can move this button around. In Nightly, you can just like whoop, boop, 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 boop in customize mode. So you can move that button around. You can't remove it. But you can move it around if you'd like. It has to stay in this toolbar. And there's a reason for this, right? Like, I know some people have been frustrated about the presence of this button, but there's a point, and it has to do with Manifest v3 and how permissions are requested from users in order to have their extensions access web pages. We need to have a place to anchor and to have a place where users can manage those permissions. And like there is a natural anchor point for a lot of extensions, the ones that add buttons. But not every extension adds a button. But we still need to be able to manage and control their permissions for particular pages and grant and revoke them. And so we needed an easy place for all of that management to occur, and that's happening here. So even if you install an extension that doesn't have a button, let's see if I can find one here. What would be one that doesn't have a button? What's a good extension that doesn't have a button? Just trying to think of what do I have in my current profile that might be a good example. Where did I put the puzzle? Here it is. Reddit comment collapser. That's a classic one. If you happen to use Reddit, this is an add-on that will allow you to sort of like fold and unfold comment blocks on Reddit. If you happen to use Reddit, it doesn't have a button though. But we need a place for it to like to manage and control, revoke, and deal with its permissions for access on a particular page. And that's what this is all about. Now, the good news is that if a button is provided, like for uBlock Origin, you can like put that in the toolbar. You can pin it there. But we have a problem now. And that is, suppose you customize this button into your bookmarks toolbar, which you can do. You can put it there. Now it's right at the end of the bar. Now it's hidden in a collapsed toolbar. It's here whenever I open up new tab, but by default, the bookmarks toolbar goes away once you start browsing away from the new tab page. So now we have a button, an add-on button, that is in a collapsed toolbar, which means we cannot anchor permission requests to it. And that's what we want to be able to do. We always want these add-on buttons to we want to be able to manage it. Like it's not showing up in here. That's the problem. So what our solution is we still want users to be able to move these buttons wherever they'd like. So we want them to be able to put them here inside of the bookmarks toolbar. But in the event that we detect that the bookmark or that the toolbar that a button is in is collapsed, and that could be the bookmarks toolbar, but there's also a menu bar that can be you can drag things in on Windows and Linux, and that can also collapse. If it's collapsed, then when you open the panel, we show the item in the panel. That's what we want to be able to do. Is there any plan to allow the extensions add-ons menu to be in the menu bar instead? Allow add-ons menu to put this add-ons and themes in the menu bar? Like here? I'm not sure what you mean. Okay, so that's what this patch is all about. Making it so that if the button is in a collapsed toolbar, that it will appear whenever you open up the add-ons panel. That's the idea. Okay, let's take a look and see how Will is doing it. I did mention that there was a bug. That's the last thing I did in my last review. Is I was like, hey, there's this one bug that we should fix, but otherwise this looks good. And so we should verify that this this bug is not reproducible. And so maybe we'll start there, actually. Let's verify that that bug is not reproducible. So the way we can do that is we can install the add-on. We're going to install an add-on with a button. We've already done that. We have our uBlock button there. Pin to the toolbar and then move to the bookmarks toolbar. That's done. Collapse the bookmarks toolbar so the item shows up in the panel. Okay, well, first of all, we have to apply this patch. So let's do that. Let me check out Central, apply this patch, build, and then we can test the behavior. Hopefully you can see what I'm writing. And then we are going to build. Okay. And then we will run, and we'll run through these steps. Okay, so we've done the first two steps. Collapse the bookmarks toolbar so the item shows up in the panel. Okay, so never show. So we should see uBlock show up in here. We do. That's good. Now it should still appear, like if I expand it, it's here, but when I collapse it, then it anchors here. Open the panel, right-click on the item, and choose to unpin from the toolbar. Open the panel, right-click on the item, and choose to pin to the toolbar. There we go. Open. I get this with the Facebook container add. Yeah, so that has been fixed. That problem has been fixed. That's good. All right, let's take a look and see how Will is fixing this and what changes he's made. So this is a good choice. He's using a toolbar visibility change event listener. So this is an event that our toolbars fire whenever their visibility state collapse, show, that sort of thing. When those states change, so each window where the browser add-ons like sort of component object in each window is adding an event listener for toolbar visibility change. That makes sense. And we tear down that event listener on init. And then we handle that event here in a switch statement. Presumably this is like a handle event. Yeah. And then we call into on toolbar visibility change and we break. That's always the thing you want to check for a switch statement, is make sure you're breaking out of each of your cases. And here's where I think the real meat of it is. It looks like you unpinned it, but it still showed as pinned. You're right. I think there is a bug on Mac OS. This is something I think is on file, and if not, I should double check. But I think there is a bug on Mac OS in particular where if you if you right click, it's like I think there's like a race sometimes. Hang on, let's put this back in the bookmarks toolbar and then collapse. So see, that should be pinned. See how there was a race there? Like it first didn't show the check and then it did. I think there's like a little bit of a race there. And I think there's an open bug on that, but I'll see if I can hunt that down. Let me add a to do. To do hunt down race bug for pin to toolbar. Okay, here's where the real meat of the issue is. Sentient is now Sentient posted a screenshot of the app menu, and then he's circled. They have circled, sorry, the arrow on the right here. And I don't know what you're saying, Sentient. Please elaborate. Oh, wait. Sorry, I meant, is there any plan where you would be able to open the extensions menu from the hamburger menu, like, say, bookmarks and history? Oh, I understand. So the idea being that, you know, this could be embedded kind of inside of the app menu. I'm not aware of any such plans. Like we do, you're right, we do embed sometimes other panels inside of this panel. This is an example of one that we do that with. So we have like something called the library, and we have like bookmarks, and that panel is also embedded in here. Like it's the same content, it's the same panel effectively, just in two different places. I don't know, because I know that there's a lot of special behavior related to this panel. One of the things that it needs to be able to do, for example, is it is what houses all of the collapsed items. As the window gets smaller, if I do this, all of the like sort of overflowed toolbar items that are add-ons go into here, and all of the like built-in ones go into here, and then whenever it underflows, they go back out in the same order. That's something I had worked on a few releases ago. And, you know, that's a tricky piece of code, and I'm not entirely certain. I should just say I'm not aware of any such plans, Sentient, of merging this into this. I do know that, like, the app menu is, you know, pretty busy. There's a lot that it does. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Adding yet another item to here, I think we'd have to think carefully about. But that's more of a UX and product question, I think, than a me question. All right, so here's the bulk of the change. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a list of extension widget IDs from a particular toolbar. I see. So we use the customizable UI API to get all of the widget IDs in a particular area, and then get just the ones that evaluate to being true for a web extension widget. So we just get the IDs of widgets that belong to web extensions. That's a good start. If the area does not exist for some reason, so I see. If it's possible that the toolbar is not registered with customizable UI. I mean, yeah, you can use a try catch for that. I think there might be another way, like you can is registered. Area is registered. What is the UI? Let's see here. Widget within area replaced, and then we begin batch update. Create widget, destroy widget, get widget, and use widgets, get widgets in area, get areas, get area type, get customizable target for area. Placement of widget is widget removable. Just looking for whether or not there's a better way to check whether or not the toolbar that is collapsing happens to be registered with customizable UI. Couldn't you add it to more tools? Overflow item that's already there, that chevron looks like it should be that for that anyway. Maybe. There's already a lot in here. The thing is, you know, add-ons are the sort of thing that people might make use of all of the time. Like, they don't necessarily want to clutter up their nav bar, but for example, if they need to turn on or off uBlock or toggle a thing, you want to make that relatively easy. The easiest thing to do is to have that stuff pinned to the toolbar, but some people don't like to have a noisy toolbar. So having like a one-stop shop of like, okay, open up uBlock here, and then like turn off. I again, it's not. These questions are really not for me. I have opinions. My personal opinion is that we'd want to make your add-on buttons, because you added them yourself and you know that you want them. We should make them as available as we can, while at the same time trying to reduce the clutter of your toolbar, helping you to reduce the clutter of your toolbar. So I actually think we've got the right solution here. But that's my personal opinion. X Message asks, are native vertical tabs on the roadmap anytime soon? Something similar to the way Vivaldi does it? Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. Okay, so let's see here. We bail out of here in the event that we don't... Oh, I had caught some kind of... Yeah, I haven't submitted this comment yet. I had started a review yesterday, but there's like small typo. The list of overflowed extensions in the extensions panel. We're going to go get that list, and we're going to move all of the extension widgets via DOM manipulation only, so that the nodes have moved, but CUI still thinks that the widgets haven't moved. We can move the extension widgets either from the toolbar to the extension panel, or the other way around when the toolbar becomes visible again. Okay, so for each widget that is in the toolbar, we'll get it, and then if we are making the widget visible, or the toolbar visible, then we're going to move the widget node back, which I guess we'll review that next. Otherwise, we get the node and we set some attributes to it being A, overflowed, B, artificially overflowed. I think that's new. And then we change its anchor to be the unified extensions button. And then we append it to the overflow list. And then no matter what we do is we update the widget class name. Okay. So that more or less makes sense. Now this is going to be the reverse operation of this. Since we already have the widget, is there something else that calls maybe move widget node back? Oh, here. Get widget ID. Unpinned to toolbar change. Get widget ID. All right. Well, this is a relatively cheap lookup. This is just a map lookup, so that's fine. We get the widget. We get the node. We're using this as our state, artificially overflowed. Okay. And so if the node happens to not have that attribute, we're going to say, all right, well, you're not artificially overflowed. We get the position that CUI thinks it's in the area. We get the container. This is where we're going to reinsert the extension widgets, but we need to account for some hidden DOM nodes already present in this container when determining where to put the nodes back. Remove the attribute set when we artificially overflowed the widget. Now, I just need to remember what exactly this means. Could this have had some other value? Set location attributes, UI anchor ID. What is this used for? Anchor ID. Oh, I see. When we want to find out where to anchor the widget, if it has an anchor. Placement of widget. Anchor ID is get anchor. And And that's related to the Zool widget single wrapper. And what is anchor used for? Show widget view. I see. So it's possible. That's what powers the fact that like the anchor, in the event that the button is in here, actually gets anchored to the outer button here. I understand. Okay. So, right. We're going to remove that because the anchor is going to become the button again. That makes sense. And then what we do is we're going to go through each of the container's child nodes and we're going to find the position. We're going to do this for each one, eh? Now, initially, my gut is like, for each one of these, you're going through a bunch of widget IDs, and for each one, you will then go through the containers, the originating container, the toolbar, all of the children, and you're gonna insert. However, realistically, the number of items inside of a toolbar, well, over a very long time, it is potentially possible that the list of widgets might get long, but the actual number of items in the toolbar is probably on the order of like dozens, maybe less than 100. Hundreds would be like very much an edge case. You're talking about someone who's got hundreds of buttons in their toolbar. I think it's probably not worth worrying about it unless the number of widget IDs is quite long. Except that we only do this if the widget is registered. And that is only true if there's an extension installed. And the number of extensions that a user will have installed are maybe on the order of dozens. Certainly not hundreds. So we're really just looking at something like, it's not huge. Like, I'm just going to make a note of it. My performance Spidey sense is tingling here because we're looping all children once per children of the container. We're looping all of the children of the container each time for each widget, web extension widget ID, we find that was hidden. In practice, this is probably a small number of loops and instructions, but in theory, the number of steps can be quite high. I wonder if it's worth seeing if we could do this in a single, see if it's worth restructuring this, in a follow-up bug, worth investigating, restructuring this in a follow-up bug to see if we could do the insertions in a single pass through the containers nodes. Someone should make an extension that just makes hundreds of buttons for testing purposes. I actually don't think you can. I think at most an extension can add one button, one browser action. Old school add-ons used to be able to just do abusive things like that, but thankfully things are a little more we have a little more control now. We can protect the user a bit more now, and so web extensions are given one browser action max. But that browser action can, for example, open a panel that contains a bunch of stuff, like an arbitrary number of things. So you have a single root browser action, is all. Okay, so I'm done reading this. This I think makes sense. Like, you loop through the child nodes, you skip the items that aren't counted in the toolbar set. If you find the position, you insert the node before it. And if you've reached the last child, you insert it after it. Otherwise, you just increment current position. That makes sense to me. Okay. Now where are we? When the panel opens, overflow extensions placed in toolbars, if any, if there are any toolbars that are collapsed in the window, we run this again. Oh, I see. I remember why. Because we don't fire this event on startup. We only fire this event. We only fire this event when the state changes. But if it initializes as collapsed, that's why we're running this. Okay. And then if we pin to the toolbar, artificially flow extensions are placed in collapsed toolbars. Here does not know about. For end users, these widgets appear in the list of overflow extensions in the panel. When we pin and then unpin and then pin one of these extensions to the toolbar, we need to first move the DOM node back to where it was so that the CUI can retrieve the DOM node and do the pinning correctly. I see. And that's why we maybe move the widget node back before we then do the pin. I understand. Okay. This has to do with this scoping. Classic. That makes sense. And then test stuff. Okay. Let's there are a couple of tests here. Let's start by looking at the changes to the head file. The head file are like the utilities that will be used to write tests, and it looks like something new was exported. Promise set toolbar visibility. Let's start there. This is a function that waits for the collapsed mutation condition to change. I guess this is asynchronous. Visible, undefined. What is the API here? Or what is the signature of this function? Persist animated. Persist is true. Okay. So we're just going to default and then don't animate, and then we'll do that. Okay. And then we're changing this function for creating extensions. We are adding a new default argument for files that will get created for the extension. I'm not super familiar with this. Generate data. Extension test comment. Generate data. Is there something like data.files? Yeah, okay. Generate files. Generate XPI. Generate XPI. I see. Okay, so that's how that works. So you can now use this helper to dynamically create extensions. You can now like supply some arbitrary files. Got it. So this is a test I'm very familiar with. We set this const, and then we're going to add a new task. I'm going to collapse this to get some more reading space here. What does this test do? Test overflow with extension in collapsed area. First thing to do is we open a new browser window. We get the bookmarks toolbar. We wait for the window to be overflowed. Oh, well, we begin this overflow task. And before we overflow it, we get the extension IDs. We're going to move the last item to the visible bookmarks toolbar. Move node. We're going to ensure that the toolbar is currently visible. Move an extension to the bookmarks toolbar. And expect extension to the bookmarks toolbar. Typo here. Expected. And then we're going to set the widget position here. And then when things are overflowed, we'll ensure that the toolbar is currently collapsed to make sure that the move node parent element ID is the overflowed extension list. Here's that same typo. And then at this point, the extension is in the panel because it was overflowed after the bookmarks toolbar is in class. So it's also narrow, but we're going to restore the initial window size since the visibility of the bookmarks toolbar hasn't changed. The extension should still be in the panel. Yes, that makes sense because the toolbar is collapsed. Good call out. So after we widen the window again, it should still be in the extensions panel. And then we make it visible again, and we ensure that it's still in the bookmarks toolbar. And it does not have that property, and then the position is correct. Yeah, that's a great test. Good job. I like that test a lot. And then the other test. All right, there's been a lot of like discussion in this one. Test extension collapse. Test that if a browser action is in a collapse toolbar area like the bookmarks toolbar that's dominoes overflowed in the extensions panel. So this is without the overflowing behavior. So we create some extensions. There's all this stuff in here, all this conversation. And we're going to say we're going to create an extension with this file called popup.html that contains this stuff and this script. And then we're going to start up the extension. We're going to open the panel. For each extension, we're going to get the unified extensions item. Should not appear in the panel. Right, not yet, because the extension is not yet collapsed. Default area is the nav bar, right. So it's in the toolbar, the default toolbar. And then we're going to move the extensions to the bookmarks toolbar. We're going to move it, make sure it's collapsed, open the panel, make sure that the item is in the panel. We would simply call it click browser action. Unfortunately, that does internally call show browser action, which explicitly asserts the group area type And that would hit a failure in this test because we're moving it to area bookmarks. Okay. So there's like an assertion built into that helper that we don't want to use. Promise panel browser. We await the extensions panel. Wait for the test pop-up to open. And then make the toolbar visible. Open the extensions panel. The item should not be there. Then we unload it and then we reset. That is great. I think this is great. Let's run these tests locally and see what happens. These are great tests. We're going to run this one first. This is gonna cause. If you don't like flashing lights, maybe look away because this is gonna like make like there's gonna be a lot of like flashing and changing and stuff here. We like change the width of windows a bunch and we test the overflowing behavior. Oh, is it because my? I have a feeling. Hang on. Let me start over. Let me get my mouse out of the way. Sometimes the position of my mouse might affect the test. All right, looks good. Now let's run the other one. That's a long test, unfortunately, but there is a lot to it. All right, amazing. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this. I think we should take it. Let's take this patch, gang. Thanks, Will. Accepted. I mean, I didn't read RPL's review. He'll need to review and make sure that like the thing he was concerned with is addressed. It looks like that is related to the stuff that Will added about, you know, the pop-up. So hopefully that's like all sort of taken care of. But we did it. All right. I forgot to ask why unified extensions instead of unified add-ons. It would be more consistent with how it was called in the hamburger menu and potentially create less confusion for some users. I think it just is called extensions. And the reason for that is because what is the add-ons is more than just what you get from like the add buttons. Here's the problem. Add-ons is a bigger umbrella than what you probably think of as extensions. Themes, for example, is another type of add-on. Dictionary packs, GMPs like Widevine are a kind of add-on. These are things that the browser goes and gets and then installs internally. And those are called add-ons. And we list all of those things in here, all those different things. And then what you probably think of as add-ons are probably the extensions. And that is what we list in here. So it's a terminology issue. I think we don't make it clear really that like add-ons is this bigger umbrella, but that's why. I don't know if that's good justification, but that hopefully that helps sort of explain why there's that distinction between add-ons and extensions. And unified extensions and unified add-ons, that's just like an internal name, though. I think we used for the panel. We just call it the extensions panel here. We don't show the word unified or anything. Okay, so what do I want to work on now? I was doing some stuff related to the migration wizard that I want to sort of wrap up. I have some patches I need to land. So maybe we can do that right now. The first one is this patch. Ooh. SmurfD may have found our... It's hard to tell when that's looping. There we go. Pinned overflow. It may be related to that one. Kara producing Fedora. Yeah, that might be related. Let me put that in my notes here. SmurfD found this one. So the extension wizard, we talked a little bit about it and worked on it last week. The thing that we worked on about the file migrators, that stuff is ready to land. I thought it'd be cool if we landed it together, but I want to show you the patch and where it's at and what it looks like when it's being used. Because yeah, we had looked at that last week. We'd done a little bit of refactoring. Keep the questions coming. I like all the chatter that's going on in the chat room here. It's good stuff. How many people? We have 147 people in here. I don't know how many of them are active, how many of them are watching the stream. That is a shocking number of people in this room. I had no idea. Wow. And that's the Matrix channel. I actually don't know who's watching this on Twitch. I don't know how many people. A lot of the people commenting, for example, are coming through Twitch right now. So that's probably like, I don't know. Normally, I think I get something like less than a dozen people watching on Twitch, but who knows? Who knows? Apparently there's 2 watching on YouTube. That's exciting. Yeah, I was waiting for this to build, and it's done building. So let's take a look, and let's take a look at the patch that we're gonna land. Right, so one of the things that we did last time was we split out the progress page for file migrators to have its own page. And yeah, built out a bunch of infrastructure for doing generic file migration versus like browser migration. Now there's like a file migration type, and that will hopefully allow users to like migrate passwords and whatnot. And I wrote a bunch of tests. So let's take a look at the feature. Sorry, I was just like zipping by the patch. You probably weren't getting a whole lot out of it, but let's at least show you what it does, just so you can refresh your memory. So here we will now have this new item, passwords from CSV file, and then I can like choose a CSV file, like what I had some CSV files in here that's like add passwords. So one new password was added. Is that the right font? Like the right appearance? That might need to get fixed. 1 added, 0 updated. Like whenever I do internal testing migrator, browser migrate, internal testing enabled. True. Yeah, the font's supposed to be smaller. I think I missed a step. We might want to just fix that quickly before landing. Um, and that's the sort of thing that we can see probably in Storybook as well. Someone says you can't pin and unpin Pocket on current Firefox stable. Pin to overflow menu. Unpin from overflow menu. Pull up Firefox stable. When I right click it, there's no menu. It works on other extension icons. So you've got a broken context menu on Pocket. That's interesting. Do I? No, I get. What could that be about, Jimbo 2150? All right. I wanted to look at Storybook here. Let's pull this up. Migration Wizard. File import progress, file input success. So yeah, the font here is wrong. What is the font being used here? It's called Success Text, de-emphasized text. And what are we using for success here? Success text, we should use de-emphasized text as well. Yeah, okay. So I'll just add that class. What's the name of the page? Page progress, page file import progress. Yeah, we just need the de-emphasized text class. That should do it. Good. And now if I restart, here I can just close this now. Import passwords from CSV file. Let's go like, is there some in here called like update passwords? Yeah, that looks right. One added, one updated. Done, done, done. Okay. One last thing. We're going to just amend that. I'm the right revision. And then we'll push this up to Fabricator and land it. Okay. Right. That's just what got landed there. We'll go ahead, view the stack in Lando. And then queue these up for landing. Oh, a landing for the revisions in the stack is already in progress. Looks like I'd already queued this. I'm going to cancel that landing request actually so that I can re-request a landing of the new revision. There. Boom. That's lucky. Luckily, the tree was closed. It's just waiting for coverage. Okay. Now what? Well, now that that's starting to go into the tree, I want to get to another patch that's related to accessibility. We just landed some changes to improve the accessibility of the migration wizard. The good news is that it was designed using a lot of like built-in HTML elements, things like, you know, buttons. Like, we didn't rebuild a lot of the widgetry from scratch, which means that we get a lot of like accessibility capabilities for free. That's just a pro tip for you web developers. You know, if you need a checkbox, use a checkbox. You can style and theme the checkbox, but use a checkbox under the hood, because accessibility tools will know what to do with it. Now, there are ways you can get you can use ARIA attributes and the role attribute to try and like hint to accessibility devices like screen readers that like, oh, this button is actually a menu or something, but it's it is better if you just use the built-in stuff, honestly. And this is the one that I want to look at. This is related to NVDA, which is the screen reader, like the premier screen reader tool on Windows. It's called NVDA. And we actually employ someone who was one of the creators of NVDA. James Tay is a prolific contributor to the accessibility team. Excellent developer. And he's been looking at this with us. And I was under the there's this conversation going on about like this part. Let me show you the issue. So this is a drop-down menu, ostensibly, but it's actually not. Like, I'm almost kind of contradicting the stuff I'd said earlier, which was like, hey, use the built-in form controls if you can. Well, in this particular case, because of, oh, hey, Narutar, thanks for the hug. I'm going to hug you back over the internet. So there is an HTML element that allows you to do drop-downs like this, and it's called select. You may have seen the select element before. It looks like this. The problem is that there's not a whole lot you can do with it. For example, you can't have like a multiple line select element here. Like, I'm pretty sure I couldn't say like appearance. Could I do this? I don't think I can. Like, can I put different DOM nodes? The way that it's structured is like the options go inside it, and you get like a single line, and then you get your menu. And you can do some CSS styling on some of these options. Like, I could say like background color red on some of these styles. Can't I? Option. This one, option, background color red, dog. Can't I do background? There is a way for you to like style. There is a way to style the select drop downs. That's one. But there's a way to do the options as well. I can't remember what they are. Like, you can do fonts, font color, or just color, yellow. Can I do that? Will that work? There's a way of doing it. But the requirements from the UX specification are like, we need icons here, and we can't do that with select dropdowns. Now, the good news is that the panelist, which is what we used for this dropdown, has a lot of what we would expect from a select dropdown, like keyboard accessibility. And, you know, if I were to like select something with the spacebar or enter that works. Like that. A lot of that we get for free from the panelist, and that's good. But the issue is that screen readers, this is a button. They're going to see this as a button, and they see this as like this panel that just appears, and it's not semantically presented as a like drop-down menu list, which is ultimately what it is. And so that's what this bug is about, is like, okay, well, how do we negotiate trying to communicate to accessibility devices what this piece of widgetry is and how it works? And so Jamie, who's one of our experts, has been working with us on this. Jamie is, like I said, one of our experts on the accessibility team who knows a lot about what the right roles are and how to make these things make sense to a screen reader and other accessibility devices. He first asks, like, can we use a select here? And unfortunately, we cannot because of the specification. How do screen readers deal with stuff like Electron apps, like Discord? That's a good question. I think it depends. I know that, for example, we have people who use Jamie uses a screen reader. There are a number of people at Mozilla who in the community who use screen readers, and they use Matrix. They use Slack, the app, both in the browser and probably the Electron app, and they're able to get by. They use Fabricator, but for things like Discord, I'm not actually sure. It's a good question. I know that it's an unfortunate reality that many web application authors don't test with screen readers. They don't even really consider it as part of like their designs or anything. So the stuff that we're doing now about the migration wizard, it's never like part of the conversation. They always kind of like shove it to the side. But I'm happy to work for a company, Mozilla, and a community, Mozilla, that takes accessibility seriously. It's part of the manifesto. Okay, the bug here isn't that NVDA isn't switching to focus mode when you tap the button. That is expected behavior, since a button doesn't provide any interaction other than simple activation. The real problem is that an NVDA user can't activate this button while in browse mode. This is broken because NVDA will programmatically click the deepest descendant under its browse mode cursor. As I understand, that descendant is an inner div inside the button. That div isn't bubbling click events up to its button. I'm not sure how the click event gets from the button text to the button, but I guess it isn't via bubbling. Maybe the div has pointer events none on it. That is true. The div does. So what Jamie suspects is true. These children under the button have pointer events none on them. And that's so that the anchoring works correctly. So that like when you click on this thing, the target of the event happens to be like the whole button. That's what we do. Like if we didn't do that, if I got rid of that rule, then like I think all of a sudden like anchoring button, like the panel starts makes less sense. Like it starts not opening correctly. And you can also then like select. Is that true? Anyways, there are some ways around that. Fix the div so that click events get routed to the button via bubbling. Or mark the div as presentational so that it isn't in the accessibility tree, making the button the deepest descendant. Note, however, that there are special cases where role presentation will be ignored, so this may not work. So maybe there's a way we can get rid of that pointer events none rule and make this stuff work. That might be possible. Third, as Nathan has noted, the label is going to clobber the screen reader's user ability to perceive the current value. A button cannot have a value, so the only thing we can use is the label. If this must be a button instead of a proper combo box, my suggestion would be to just drop the label change here altogether. Hopefully the browser name provides sufficient context that this allows the user to change the selected browser. Okay, so instead of using a label, we just leave it be. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to rebase this on top of this. And Jamie suggests getting rid of the label that was added altogether on the button. So, yeah, let's do it. What was it? Profile selector. So we're going to get rid of that. And is role menu correct? Menu. It does show the element as having role menu. I think that's just a minor oversight. Menu is the wrong role to have on the button that expands the menu. Rather, we should have a button with the default button role that comes to the element that is linked to the actual menu that pops up via aria has pop up equal menu. Okay, that's what they want. So we get rid of role menu and we say has pop up equal menu. Now I have to refresh my memory on what this means. Aria has pop up attribute indicates the availability and type of interactive pop up element that can be triggered by an element in which the attribute is set. In Aria interactive menu. The Aria pop out with one of 6 enumerated values: menu, list, tree, grid, dialog, or true. Indicates the element can trigger pop up when kind of pop up will be displayed. In turn, that element that pops up must be of the role indicated. The value true is the same as menu. Any other value, including an empty string, is treated as a false reset. So they were saying have it be has pop up equal menu, which means then that this the drop down that appears should also have the role of menu as opposed to list. Migrationwizard.mjs. Role menu. And then, like, what is the menu role? List of choices. Menu role is appropriate list. And then menu items include menu item. Okay. So instead of list item, it'll be menu item. Okay. Menu item. And then role menu. And then the question was whether or not we can make it so that this button doesn't use pointer events null or pointer events none on this stuff. So let's see if we can make that work. Migration wizard.css pointer events none is happening here. If we get rid of that, then we might be able to do it if we, let's see here. Toggle. Show. If event, if we say current target, that might work. Because current target will map to where you are bubbling up to. Let's see what happens if we do that. I'm curious, Naruto. You're saying that Discord is better than Matrix. What about Discord is better than Matrix? Is it the discoverability problem? What's missing for you for Discord? For Matrix, rather. Okay, let's see here. Settings, import. So here, okay. So this is the problem, right? It's like the anchoring. Now, can I retarget maybe? Show event. triggering event. Could I synthesize a mouse event? See, it's always using the target for the event for the anchor node. See, that's why I did this. Pointer events none. How do I like retarget? Event retargeting. JavaScript. Can I presume I cannot. Yeah, it is read only. Hit event. Current event, related target, original target, composed target. Can I like JavaScript clone event change target? Use in order to implement event delegation. We might have to use role presentation here because I'm really reluctant to change panel list for now. Remind me again what role presentation is. Being exposed to the accessibility tree. Will that be all right? So let's try this. Okay. And I'm going to pop open VoiceOver, see what it thinks of this. I need to try NVDA as well. But let's see what VoiceOver thinks of this. This is going to get pretty chatty, so hang in there, gang.
VoiceOver on system OBS. OBS 27.2.0 menu title. Title window.
Title.
OBS. OBS categories list leaving categories. Link find and open import data button. Safari menu pop-up button. You are currently on a button inside of web content. To click this button, press Control Option Space. To exit this web area, press Control Option Shift up arrow. Safari menu item, group menu 10 items. Nightly has new window. You are currently on a menu item. To interact, Chrome, person 1, interactive. Chrome, awesome other user, interactive. Chrome Canary, person 1, interactive. Internal testing migrator, interactive. Internal testing migrator, menu pop-up collapsed button, closing menu. Internal testing migrator, menu pop-up collapsed button, internal testing migrator, saved logins and passwords, browsing history, form autofill data.
Why
you are currently on a button inside of web content. To click this button, press Control Option System Preferences, VoiceOver
how
off.
It was like repeating itself while it was going through this list? Why is that? Because the button itself has a label. Saved logins and passwords. I see. So I wonder what happens if we, for example, say that this is role presentation. If we did that, what is the accessibility API thing of this? So it still sees that there's two of them. Text leaf. So like, what is that? What are you supposed to do with that? That metaphor. If you've got a label, hang on, what's the label? Input type equals checkbox, span, test 1, 2, 3, and then you say like the check button is labeled by the label bookmarks, which is labeled by this text leaf. So like, is this just how it works? Like if I examine this.
VoiceOver on Nightly. JS Bin, collaborative JavaScript debugging window. Test 123, unchecked checkbox has keyboard focus. You are currently on a checkbox. Test 123, unchecked checkbox. Leaving JS Bin. Edit text. System preferences. VoiceOver off.
So that's, first of all, I did this wrong. Span and then label. Close out the label. Why is it?
VoiceOver on Nightly. JS Bin, collaborative JavaScript debugging window. Test 123, unchecked checkbox has keyboard focus. You are currently on a checkbox, inside of a frame. Out of JS Bin, test 123, unchecked checkbox. System preferences, Nightly, test 1, checked, test 123, checkbox. System preferences,
See, that sounds right.
VoiceOver off.
So how come these ones are getting listed? Here, let me just like copy this entire chunk of HTML. Sure.
VoiceOver on Nightly. JS Bin, collaborative. Bookmarks, unchecked checkbox. You are currently on a checkbox, inside of a frame. To select or deselect this checked bookmarks checkbox, unchecked book system preferences,
It's
VoiceOver
only
off.
listed once here. So what's the dealio? Is it because it's inside of a field set? What is the accessibility? Text leaf check button. Yeah, it has like the same structure. Grouping. And then if I put it inside of details, let's copy more. Let's copy more. Let's copy this entire structure. Copy outer HTML. Okay. And
VoiceOver on Nightly. JS Bin, internal testing migrator, menu pop, import all available data, bookmarks, unchecked checkbox. You are currently on a check bookmarks, clickable, bookmark, JS Bin, heading level, in text, out of text, import browser, out of, bookmarks, unchecked checkbox, bookmarks, clickable, bookmarks, unchecked checkbox. You are saved logins and passwords, unchecked checkbox. You are saved browsing form autofill data, form autofill data, unchecked checkbox. You are JS Bin frame, system preferences, VoiceOver off.
all right, now over here.
VoiceOver off, heading level 1, internal, select the data you'd like to import, bookmarks, checked checkbox. You are currently on bookmarks, clickable. You are currently on a text element. Select the data, internal testing migrator, menu pop-up, system preference, VoiceOver off.
So I think that whole readout happened only whenever I changed the state here. Like
VoiceOver on Nightly. Settings, window. Settings, web content has keyboard focus, Opera. You are currently on web content. To enter the web area, press Control, Option, Shift, down arrow. Menu, 10 items. Closing menu. Safari. Opera. Internal testing migrator. Menu item. Group. Internal testing migrator. Internal testing migrator. Form autofill data. Form autofill data. You are currently on a group. Inside of web content. Internal testing bookmarks. Checked checkbox. Saved logins and passwords. Checked checkbox. Browsing history. Checked checkbox. Form autofill data. Checked checkbox. You are cancel. Import button. You are currently on a button. Inside of element. Element 1 vertical line live hacking window. Element 1 vertical line live hacking web content has keyboard focus. You are currently on web content. To enter the web area nightly. Settings window. Import button. Import date. Safari. Menu pop-up collapsed button. Internal testing migrator. Internal testing migrator. Internal testing migrator. Saved logins and passwords. Saved logins and passwords. Browsing history. Browsing history. Form autofill data. Form autofill data. You are currently on a button. Inside of web content element. Element
So
1
it
vertical
happens
line live
whenever-
hacking system preferences. Voiceover off.
It happens whenever we change the state here. And that when that happens, what do? We change the browser selection change. I think there's like a way of like ARIA polite, ARIA live regions in the channel. That might be useful. ARIA live equals polite. Like, oh, the whole thing has ARIA live equals polite. If I say, for example, that this field set and then turn on
Void nightly bookmarks internal Microsoft Edge Beta Pro nightly has new window. Microsoft Edge Beta Profile 1 menu pop-up collapsed button. Microsoft Edge Beta Profile 1 Microsoft Edge Beta Profile 1. You are currently on a button inside of web content. To click this button, press Safari. Internal testing nightly has new window. Internal testing migrator menu pop-up collapsed button. Internal testing migrator. Internal testing migrator. Bookmarks. Bookmarks. Saved logins and passwords. Saved logins and passwords. Form autofill data. Form autofill data. You are currently on a button inside of web content. To click this button, press System Preferences. Voiceover off.
I think I'm gonna have to ask our accessibility team about that. It's just, I don't have a problem with it reading out the items. It's just it's repeating itself a lot, and that's going to be annoying to people using screen readers. Okay. So I need to test this on NVDA as well, see what it's like, but I'm gonna update my work in progress patch here. Presentation. And then I'm going to not do that. Amend this. I'm going to push this up to Fabricator and move it over to my Windows machine so I can test it out. But I'm also going to end the stream there. Submit tip single whip. Thank you so much for watching episode 321 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. We reviewed some patches, one patch really. And we looked at some Migration Wizard stuff, and hopefully this stuff will land soon. The new Migration Wizard, if you're curious, if you want to try it out, is enabled by default in Nightly. So if you want to test it out, there are a couple different ways of getting there. My favorite way currently is to go to Preferences and then choose Import Data. And you can report issues. If there's something wrong with it, let us know. There are bugs. There's a place where you can file bugs. I'll put a link in the agenda right now, actually. Let me show you how to do that. Like if I go to New Bug, Migration, this is the component. And then I'm going to say, remember these values as a bookmarkable template, and then copy this link. If you follow this link, Migration Wizard bugs, file them here. It's a big old link, but if you click on that, then you get if you have a Bugzilla account and you're logged in, you'll have a lot of the stuff pre-filled out, so you can just fill in like the summary and the description and then get the bug filed, and it'll go in the right place. And that's the first step to getting stuff fixed, is making sure it's filed in the right place. All right. Thanks again for watching episode 321 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. Let me know what you thought. You can click on the Rate This Episode link in the agenda to give me feedback. You can also ask me questions. I was just going to repeat it. Is it maybe reading the name of the checkbox and the label? Yes, I'm pretty sure it is. I think that's true, Narrator. The question is, like, why wasn't it doing that in the JS bin I had open, which used the same markup? Like, why does it read it out just whenever I do like the full state change? So that's the question. When I'm just sort of like navigating around on the checkboxes, it doesn't read the label in the checkbox. So what's the dealio? All right. Well, thanks again for watching. Let me know what you thought. Click on that Rate This Episode link and smash that bell or something. And I will hopefully see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hold on. Here comes the music.
The joy of coding.
See ya.